welcome to part 2 of the demonization of artificial sugars. We hope you enjoy this episode.
So now we got cyclamate and saccharin banned. Food manufacturers, lobbyists, and consumers fought back. They were worried about losing saccharin forever because that's all they had at the time.
Yeah.
So,
God forbid we ingest normal sugar.
Right. Can't have that.
You gotta be skinny.
Also, this was the 70s, and regulation, the government, the man, it was all thought to be evil.
Fuck the man, get out of Vietnam.
Exactly. So, this was something...
Give us our artificial sugars back.
Right. So, this is something that they could control.
Yes.
They could be activists, and they could push for, ending of the war, but they could also do this, and this is something that was possible for them to actually win, and they did.
Yes.
So, the ban was changed to a warning and a mandate to label products that had saccharin in it, explaining the dangers, was implemented. So, later it was proven the whole bladder cancer thing in rats was specifically a rat problem due to their specific biology, and it wasn't a human problem. It didn't translate. So.
Hashtag rat problems.
Right. So, that was something that was proven later. At the time, they were just happy to get their saccharin back, and they didn't ask any more questions.
Okay.
So, there was that part of it, but then also the dosages that they were using were actually super high as well when they were testing the rats anyway. So, it was all bunk regardless. But people had it in their minds, alternative sugars give you cancer.
Yeah.
In 2000, eventually, saccharin was taken off that list of known carcinogens that nobody wants to be on, and the warning labels stopped circulating, so now saccharin is everywhere.
Yes.
Now we move on to aspartame.
My least favorite. Her and I don't get along.
Neat. Neither does my husband. You and my husband get along. Aspartame and my husband don't get along.
No, not so much, yeah.
Aspartame has a super complicated history. It was accidentally invented in 1965 by James M. Schlater, a chemist for J.D. Searle Company. He licked his fingers.
Quit licking your fingers!
Yeah. You gotta stop licking your fucking fingers.
You're a scientist! Stop!
Right?
You're not like you're not in the culinary arts where that's appropriate. Cut that shit out,
right?
Jesus.
So, before he licked his fucking fingers, he was developing a new ulcer drug, and he tasted something sweet. And this was it was aspartame. It's the only allergen I know my husband has in the food and drug world. It's this. The amino acid compound is basically a mixture of aspartic acid and, I'm going to say this wrong, phenylalanine. Phenylalanine. I think it's phenylalanine. I think it's phenylalanine, yeah.
Okay.
That one. It's 200 times sweeter than sugar, and it's stable in acidic conditions, but loses its sweetness and breaks down to its constituent amino acids while it's heated. So it's not good in baked goods, but if it's cold enough, you're fine. So it's mostly used in cold or frozen desserts, beverages, and gum. It also really, really, really doesn't taste like sugar at all.
Nope.
So everyone kind of knows what that tastes like.
It kind of tastes like death.
If you don't, you've been living somewhere like with the Amish. I don't know.
It's like you're licking like a stone out of like a river that once had a chemical spill in it.
Why is that accurate?
That's all
Not that I've done that specific thing.
But that's like all I can equate it to in my mind.
Yeah.
Is like, I don't know. Aspartame and I are not friends. That's why energy drinks and I are not friends.
So it's got that very, very specific aftertaste that no one really loves.
Sour. No, Jake loves that shit.
He loves the aftertaste
Jake
of aspartame.
Loves aspartame.
What a weirdo. Love your man, but my goodness. He's a wonderful, wonderful person, but he's got weird taste.
I'm going to ask him if he'll make a comment for us on aspartame.
I'd love that. So in 74, the FDA approval was paused for aspartame. And it was thanks to claims of brain tumors development due to this specific chemical. And its safety has been proven over and over and over and over by 100 regulatory agencies, even after the claims of brain tumors. And they couldn't actually replicate what the claims were in all of these tests and all of these studies and everything. They could never replicate that. Right. So that claim, it may be bunk. It may not. It may be garbage. I don't know. But the claim itself was mostly perpetuated by mouth, but we were getting to the point where the internet was starting to come in, which made it even worse. So because there was no basis to these claims, people just ate it up anyway, but it wasn't a time to question that stuff. It was just like, oh, well, this person said so.
Yep.
So it has to be true. And to be fair, that also happens today. But there's a little more, I would say.
Yeah.
Like checking.
And this was probably, because what year was this?
This
Vaguely.
Was 74.
Okay.
Close to the 80s.
Okay, because I was going to say this is kind of in our parents' realm.
Yeah.
Of, like, you don't touch normal sugar ever.
Yeah. Because it'll make you fat.
Yeah, and they were coming out with, like, potato chips that had no fucking sugar in them, and, like,
yep.
beverages that had no sugar, and all this other stuff, because that was the bad thing.
Right.
And then I know that they I don't know if your parents ever said it, but, like, I remember when we didn't have sugar.
Like, I don't think my parents ever said that.
Oh, okay. My mom and my grandmother would be like, God, do you remember when we didn't have sugar? Like, we'd be, like, scooping ice cream for, like, dessert or something. They'd be like, remember the 80s? When we just didn't eat sugar? And as a kid, I was baffled.
You know what? That's fair.
I was like, what do you mean you don't eat sugar? It's ice cream night.
Right. What a wild concept.
You didn't have ice cream night in the 80s?
So, like I was saying, word of mouth got it pretty far, but there was one particular conspiracy theory email that was circulating around at the time. It was from the pseudonym Nancy Markle, and it started making its way around the internet. There was no basis to the claims at all. It was just fear-mongering for the sake of fear-mongering. The claims in this email were that in normal doses of aspartame, it caused multiple sclerosis.
What?
Systemic lupus, methanol toxicity, blindness, spasms, shooting pains, seizures, headaches, depression, anxiety, memory loss, birth defects, and death.
Do you know how many of those are genetic?
Yeah, exactly.
They're in your genes whether you lick the aspartame or not, girlfriend.
Yeah, so it's not based in science. They are claims because people wanted something to blame. And they just wanted to put fear in people about something because they can. And it fucking worked. People were terrified of alternate sugars, and some of them still are today. So, thanks to the outrage from this email, aspartame has been extensively studied. No test, no study, no nothing can replicate the claims of any of that at all. So, I have to assume it's garbage. But that's my assumption as someone that is not in the sciences. But the FDA was quoted that aspartame is one of the most thoroughly tested and studied food additives the agency has ever approved. That is a quote straight from the FDA. So, they're even saying that's enough.
Right.
The claims that aspartame is carcinogenic is based in wildly high doses, if that. People with PKU, it's a specific kidney thing that I there's a name for it, and it's right there in front of me, and I'm not saying that. That is, it's too hard.
Yeah.
People that have PKU or are allergic to sulfonamides probably shouldn't use artificial sweeteners in general, but especially not aspartame. That's one that you probably want to stay away from. That's about all they could find that was wrong with aspartame, though.
And it's icky. But I don't think they were, like, focusing on that part of it.
Yeah, the taste wasn't really what they were after here.
It's okay, I don't need the FDA to tell me that it tastes icky.
I got taste buds for that. So this controversy didn't stop aspartame for long. It finally came into the market as NutraSweet in 81. And when the FDA finally approved it, aspartame replaced more than 1 billion pounds of sugar in the standard American diet in the 80s. Also, Diet Coke was launched in this time frame, which contained aspartame. So, neat little facts for you.
Gross. On so many accounts.
Fair. We're going to move on.
Yes.
1976, scientists have found a way to bond sucrose with chlorine. And when one researcher was told to test the compound, he heard taste. Yep.
Stop licking the science. Jesus Christ.
So, clearly, he survived.
Clearly.
And that was the beginning of sucralose, better known to the market at the time as Splenda. It was approved by the FDA in 1998, and it clocks in at about 600 times the sweetness that sugar is. So it's big in the sweet category. It became popular as a substitute for baking purposes, and that's because it's super heat stable. While it can be partially metabolized in the body, it has less calories than sugar does. So Splenda was the obvious replacement for sugar for a lot of things, for pretty much everything for a while. It actually replaced NutraSweet or aspartame as the most consumed substitute on the market as of now. Sucralose has 30% of the global market, which was projected to be valued at $2.8 billion by 2021. So it's big. It's one of the biggest.
And this one is...
Splenda. Sucralose.
I feel like I remember being in Girl Scouts and having, like, almond and waspy women, like, itty-bitty tiny moms, be like, oh, this week was our week to make baked goods for Girl Scouts. I made them with Splenda.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, Barbara.
Fair. So let's move on to something that is the bane of my existence because I hate the taste so much. Steviol glycosides. Stevia. It's a natural sweetener, which people love to claim on their products. It's a plant-based sweetener. It was used in South America for centuries, but only introduced to the U.S. market in the 80s. It's not processed in our guts the same way as sugars, so they essentially don't have calories of their own. It's also true that it's derived from plants rather than in a lab, but it's not necessarily any better than any of the other sweeteners because it's natural. Like, for an example, technically, saccharin is derived from natural material. Coal is just dead trees.
It really is.
300 million year old trees, but trees all the same. So it is natural. So it tastes like garbage. That's my personal opinion. That's not based in science. I'm just throwing that out there. The FDA did issue a ban on stevia in 87 because it wasn't approved as a food additive at the time. However, it was available as a dietary supplement. And then after being proven to be safe, after tests with companies like Cargill and Coca-Cola, the FDA finally gave it its status of GRAS, or generally recognized as safe. So now it's on the market.
Generally recognized as safe.
And I guess that was good enough.
Term.
Yep. So that's stevia. And it's there. And it tastes not good. But that's me. So we're going to move on to one that I didn't really even know was a thing.
Okay.
Until I started researching. There's 2 of these, actually, that I didn't know was a thing until I started researching, but I'll just talk for a second on these, because I know we're going to run out of time. Asulfame potassium, or ACE-K. Mm-hmm. It's also called Sweet One on the market. And it's another artificial sweetener that I didn't know existed, like I said. It was discovered in 1967 by Karl Klaus and Harold Jensen at Hoechst AG. Don't know what they do, but I'm sure it's fine. They're a company. They're probably totally fine and cool and not bad at all. Probably. I'm joking. Yep. Big surprise. It was an accident that it was discovered.
Don't make me say it again.
Are you catching on to the theme here?
Yeah.
Klaus dipped his fingies into the chemicals and he licked them, picking up a piece of paper. Big surprise. It was given its safe approval by the FDA for use in 1988. ACE-K is 200 times sweeter than sugar. Also has a bitter aftertaste, just like most of the other ones. Kraft Food actually patents the use of sodium ferulate to mask the aftertaste that you're going to get with it. And other companies will blend other sweeteners to mask the taste, just like most of the other ones will do, because they can't get that one component that Kraft took. ACE-K is heat, acidic, and basic stable. It has a stable shelf life, but it can eventually degrade into acetamide. Big long word. It's toxic in high doses, so don't eat it if it's expired, essentially.
Okay.
Does the body bad after it's expired, so don't be like, oh, it was fine until 3 months ago. I'm sure it's fine. It's not, Becky, okay? It's fine if you throw it out and then get more.
Yep.
It's not going to kill your budget. Here's the last one that actually on the list at all. I didn't even know that it existed until like 2 days ago when I was editing this. Neotame or Nutame in the market. It has no calories. It's 7,000 to 13,000 times sweeter than sugar, which is unnecessary. It's described as having off flavors, not bitterness, to overcome those. It's the same as the others. They're mixed around with other sweeteners. It was approved by the FDA in 2002. It is fine for people with PKU and type 2 diabetes. It has been tested to be safe. It's similar to aspartame, but it's more stable, especially in heat and dairy. And I couldn't really find a fun story about a man licking his fingers.
Thank God.
So, unfortunate for continuity, but fortunate for us.
Speaking of fucking licking our fingers.
I don't know what kind of transition this is, but I'd love to know.
It relates back, I promise.
Okay.
When I was in chemistry class in high school, we had to do a whole ass experiment and project on all these different kinds of sugars.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, and so we were tasting them all and ranking them all and figuring out what they were made of and all this shit. So it all sounds vaguely familiar to me.
Yeah. But you were licking your fingers on purpose.
Yeah.
Great.
Quit licking your fingers. Stop it.
Here's a little side thing.
Okay.
It's not really the same thing, but I was curious, so now that I know, you should know because I feel compelled to tell you.
Great.
Sugar alcohols. You've heard about those before. You just never really knew what they were. They're sweetening and bulking ingredients used in the manufacturing of food and beverages, particularly sugar-free candies, cookies, and chewing gums. They are less sweet and supply fewer calories than sugar. They are converted to glucose slowly, do not spike increases in blood glucose. They are carbs with a biochemical structure, particularly matching the structure of sugar and alcohol, although it does not contain ethanol. So there is no actual, alcohol in the way that you think in there.
Right.
They are not entirely metabolized by the human body. The unabsorbed sugar alcohols may cause bloating and diarrhea due to their osmotic effect if consumed in sufficient amounts. So there's that. Now you know all that information. 3 seconds. You're welcome. Wasn't 3. If you wanted a little breakdown for calories and sweetness, I'm going to give it to you real quick.
Great.
Aspartame. Let's see. I put the actual, like, brand names instead of what it is.
That's okay.
Which was dumb of me. I believe this one's aspartame. It's Equal or NutraSweet or whatever. That one is 200 times sweeter. Sweet and Low is 300 times sweeter. That's saccharin. Splenda, which is sucralose, that's 600 times sweeter. And Ace K is 200 times sweeter than sugar.
That's so unnecessary.
It really, really is. And I didn't add the new tame or whatever it is because that was a last minute addition. I didn't want to do the work. I'll be honest. And per 10 grams, sugar is 39 calories. Sucralose is 33 calories. So it's really not even that much that it's less than. And then aspartame, stevia, saccharin, and Ace K are all 0 calories for that amount. So.
And these are coming around because we were demonizing calories and just like...
Is the perfect storm. Everybody
in the world at some point in time had a very fucked up view of food.
Yes. And we're all just living in this world where it's like, you can eat the cupcake now, Bridget.
Yep. Because it's fat-free and oil-free and sugar-free and fucking air. I don't know.
Like, sure. So most people consume these products due to dietary concerns, dental care, glucose metabolism, cost, and shelf life. It makes sense why people gravitate towards these things. Also, funny story, the aftertaste that you actually are tasting with all of these, it's not a specific taste. It's just the sweetness laying on your tongue for longer than you're used to. And it's freaking out your brain. That's what it is. It's not actually, this tastes weird. It's that sweetness is there for too long. I don't know what to do with that. So, fun fact, your brain's broken now. So, all of our human studies for all of this stuff have to be purely observational. Ethically, we can't actually study people. So that's why you have a lot of rat studies.
Okay.
I have a lot of information about the actual studies, but I don't know how much time we have. Help me out here. We have 8 minutes? All right. I'll get you the Cliff Notes version to the best of my ability.
I'm still broken.
About the aftertaste?
Yeah! Is that why aspartame tastes like past chemical spill rocks?
Yes.
Past chemical spill river rocks?
Yes.
Ugh.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to break you like that.
You know, it's
I didn't think that was the one that was going to break you.
Don't validate my husband like that.
I'm sorry. So there's a study from 2017 that basically concluded people that if they're already obese and they have a family history of diabetes or obesity or anything like that, they tend to gravitate towards artificial sweeteners in their beverages. And they think that people end up overusing the stuff, thinking it's a health beverage because it has 0 calories, or it has 0 calories rather. But it's all soda. It's not good for you. It should be a treat. But people don't get that in their brains. They're like, this is fine. There was another study in 2011. It showed that there was absolutely a link between sugary beverages and type 2 diabetes, but the link between diet drink and diabetes was gone when they corrected for other things that could cause diabetes that should have been considered for that person, like being overweight or does not exercise.
Right.
Or, overconsumption. Like, that's just, it wasn't, okay.
You're right.
It's happening. Sneeze.
Good Garfield.
So, it was mostly, those are the things that are tending to be themes in these studies. When they, okay. When they test for sugar-sweetened beverages to non-nutritive sweetened beverages, which are just your alternate sugars, and they test compared to, like, water as a control or anything like that, or they give you glucose packets or something, like, they... Okay. A big sneeze. When they do those tests, they see improved glycemia, lower blood glucose, reduced body weight, several positive side effects on hard health outcomes, and mostly no negative ones when it comes to the artificial sweeteners if you're in moderation.
Right.
There was a couple of studies that people are scared of saying that there is an effect on their gut microbiome when you drink artificial sweeteners. And that is true for literally one study that I found. I don't know how many they were talking about, but I found one.
Great.
And it was saying that one particular bacteria in the gut microbiome was changed in one study, and it made it increase slightly. Otherwise, nothing else changed that could have possibly changed in that scenario. That particular bacteria, just doing a quick Google search, it didn't do anything fancy. Apparently that bacteria is low in people with insulin resistance and diabetes.
Interesting.
So increasing that, I would think, logically, isn't going to do you any harm.
Yeah.
In fact, it's only going to help.
Yeah.
Possibly. So, insulin response in your body, there's claims that, like, if you're used to a certain amount of sweetness and then your body doesn't get that actual, like, sugar, that something's gonna go cattywampus in your body and then leaky gut and then, you know.
The only thing that's gonna go cattywampus is your desire for sugar.
Right. And, like, it's... There's a lot of claims about all of this stuff when it comes to, like, irritable bowel syndrome and, I don't know, like, fucking... maybe your heart's gonna go on fire or something. Like, it just goes bumpity-bump too much.
Right.
There's a lot of claims about things that they could happen that way. Nothing in science tells us that's fact. So we haven't been able to prove any of that. We're still working on it, but as of now, there's no reason to think that artificial sweeteners are going to kill you. If you are the kind of person that needs, like, a 12-pack of Dr. Pepper to get through your day... a day,
yeah,
then you have bigger problems than artificial sweeteners. You
Yes.
need to cut back. That is your problem, Barbara, or whatever your name is. You need to work on what you think is a treat and figure out what you are getting from these sodas. It's not the Diet Dr. Pepper. It doesn't matter if it's Dr. Pepper or Diet Dr. Pepper.
yeah,
You have a problem, and you need to work on what motivates you to get through the day. You need to lower your intake of sugar or sweeteners or anything that is bad for you. You need good food, you need good sleep, you need good water, you need a sufficient stuff to make your body function.
Yep.
And if you're not doing that, the artificial sweeteners aren't the problem, you are.
Yeah. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're consuming any sort of the artificial sweetener or a normal sweetener, like a honey or a sugar, like a sugar cane.
Right.
If you're just overall consuming too much, it's going to be bad for you.
Right. As we said in the beginning, too much of a good thing is a bad thing. It was true a long time ago, it's true now.
Yeah, Barbara, or whatever name we gave the lady that we're yelling at in this episode.
Right. So, that's it. That's essentially the whole thing. I cut out a couple of things that I wanted to talk about that was study related, but overall, what I'm telling you right now is that's my conclusion with all of that is don't overconsume.
Yeah.
That's it. And then you're golden.
And
it's a treat.
Go treat yourself to whatever artificial or regular sweetener you want.
Right.
Have a good time.
Yeah.
Bake those cookies. I don't know.
Yeah, and the only reason that I was even interested in this topic is because you can't go to a fucking CU or a 7-Eleven in this country without finding a sugar-free beverage.
That's true.
It's just so ingrained in the culture here, and I was just very, very curious why in America there's a little more of a stigma than it is here.
Yeah.
And that's why. Is because people heard about the cancer claims and they were like, ooh, I'm spooked now. Cancer's a bad C word. And they didn't look any further into it.
Right.
And then the ones that do end up developing problems are the ones that have another overconsumption problem.
Exactly.
So.
You're right on the money, my guy.
That's my conclusion. This was a long episode and I'm so sorry. It was a two-parter. I apologize.
I hope you really enjoyed learning about the sugar, though.
Yeah,
It was interesting.
I had a great time.
I'm glad.
I'll be honest.
I'm so glad.
Now I really, really, really want to know what your watering hole is going to be.
You'll have to tune in next time to find out.
Ah! Okay, cool.
All right. Have a great week. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.